Hello, everyone. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana episode. In this video, I'm creating with the Simon Says Stamp Dreamy Leaves stamp set, and I have a modern card to share with you. All supplies I'm using for this project are listed and linked in the video description below. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a Misty stamping tool. This is the larger Misty, and I have placed a panel of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. This panel is cut to 4¼ by 5½ inches. I have placed it inside my Misty. I also have a waffle flower grip mat, and the grip mat is what is holding my paper in place, although you will also see me use a magnet, just to be sure. I'm starting to add leaves from the Dreamy Leaves stamp set to create a leafy frame, if you will, for my card. So I have added all of the leaves onto my background. I'm orienting the leaves so that they face the center. So they are coming in from the edges of my panel into the center. I've added a magnet there to hold my panel down, and I'm inking up my images using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. This is alcohol marker friendly ink, and I know I will be coloring these images with alcohol markers. I have a few Copic marker colors in mind because I want to do creative coloring. I want to do some non-typical coloring for these leaves. I'm double stamping these leaves just to make sure that I have a good impression. With that done, I just have one gap on my panel, and here I have 2 more leaves, and I'm going to stamp them onto the gap, onto the panel to fill that gap. And once again, I'm using the same ink as before. Now it's time to do some coloring. So here we have this amazing panel. I love the way this looks. I love the detail on the leaves. I think it's just fantastic. And this opens up to a lot of coloring possibilities, a lot of coloring options. I didn't want to do a traditional type of coloring for this leaf. I didn't want to do a whole solid green leaf. I wanted to be a little bit more creative. So I went on Pinterest and I looked at different leaf ideas. And I found this one leaf that kind of inspired me. And the leaf looked different than the other leaves because it did not have a solid layer of color. It had variation in color, plus it had a lot of white space. It had a little bit of green and a little bit of white. Well, actually, a lot of green and a little bit of white. But you will also later see me add some pink because in nature, leaves come in all sorts of colors. You can spot a bunch of different leaves, especially if you are looking at the tropical leaves. So I was inspired to add a little bit of pink to my leaves later. So here I'm starting with my lightest color. This is the G94. So this is my lightest green or lighter green. I will use just 2 green colors, a darker and a lighter. I want my leaves to be rather dark. I want the green on the leaves to be rather dark. So the G94, which is a pretty dark green, is my lighter green. And what I'm doing here is I am adding flicks of color. I'm flicking the color onto the leaf, onto each side of the leaf. So I'm not coloring the entire leaf. I'm just adding color here and there, and I'm being very selective and very purposeful about it. So I just want to have a lot of color variation on my leaf. I'm stopping a lot to decide if I need to add more green color onto this leaf. And once I'm happy with my lighter green, I'm using a darker green. This is G99. This is the darkest green that I have in my stash. And I'm using that color to add darker spots onto the leaf. Again, I'm using the flick style coloring method. So I'm just flicking the color onto my image. I'm not blending anything. I want there to be harsh lines. Well, not too harsh, but harsh-ish. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because when you flick the color, you do eliminate that very harsh line. So I want to have some contrast. I want to have color definition on my image. So I'm coming in with that darker green and I'm adding that over about a half or at least 1/3 of each lighter green sections. Next, I'm using a color that is not quite expected, and it is pink. So here I have the RV00. It is the lightest pink that I have in my stash, and I'm using it to add touches of pink onto the sleeve. I am making sure that I am leaving some sections white. I do want to have a little bit of white on my leaf, but I'm also adding the pink here. The same with the green. I had a lighter and a darker green, and the same with the pink. I just applied the lighter pink, and now I'm coming in with my darker pink. This is the RV11. It's a nice muted pink, but if you are recreating this card, I would encourage you to try and pick even a more vibrant, a more vivid pink if you want to have, a more vibrant look on your leaf. So here I'm using that darker pink and I'm going over the lighter pink, but I'm also using this darker pink to go over some green sections. And that gives me quite an unexpected result. I love the look of this pink over the green. I did not film how I colored the entire background because the coloring is the same on each of the leaves. I used the same techniques, the same colors, and I just colored the entire background. Now I did use my darker green, the G99, to color the center of the leaf, the vein that runs down the leaf, to add a little bit more definition there. I encourage you to grab this stamp set and try and stamp a background that looks like this. If you want to complicate things or be a lot more creative than I am, you can also do some masking, maybe create masks for the leaves. It's not hard to do because these are rather large leaves, so that would be very easy to do. And you can create very beautiful masked backgrounds for your cards and just experiment with all the different colors. So here, I'm combining green and pink, but you can also venture a little bit into purples. There are leaves, a lot of leaves like that. If you want, you can even bring some of the teal colors or maybe substitute green for the teal. There are a lot of teal and purple or teal and pink leaves out there as well. So be brave, grab your unexpected colors and try to color your leaves in a similar way. Okay, with the leaf coloring done, I also used a C1 marker. So this is my shadow marker, and I just outline each of the leaves to add a little bit of shadow to my card. Right now, this is a flat background. It's a one-layer background. For me, this is very unexpected because I like to have dimension on my cards. So in order to add visual dimension, I am using a C1 marker. Now my coloring bled a little bit in some sections. I wouldn't say bled, but I accidentally went outside the lines and I could have covered that. I could have cleaned that up using a white Jelly Roll pen. This is what I usually do. But I knew I wanted to add that shadow, so I did not add any white pen. Instead, I kind of tried to blend that using the C1 marker. I was successful in some sections, not so much in other sections, but I wasn't trying to make this perfect. I was just having fun with the stamp set and with these ink colors. Next, I used the Barely Art glue and I adhered my panel, my background, onto an A2 card base. To create a sentiment for this card, I used a new stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Happy Combos, and I stamped Happy or Friends sentiment. I stamped that using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I did my stamping on the same paper, Neenah Solar White 80 pound. I covered that with clear embossing powder because I wanted to add a little bit of shine to these sentiments. And then I cut those out using the coordinating dies. I particularly like that the Happy has a wide border around it. So it looks like it's a die cut, a black die cut added onto a white shadow die cut. I quite like that look. And I'm glad that the coordinating die for this stamp has that wide lip. To finish this card, I used a bunch of sequins. These are the Aura sequins from Spellbinders. And The sequins are serving a dual purpose here. They're decorating the card, but they're also hiding those imperfections where I went outside the lines by accident when I was doing my coloring. I also have another card created using the same supplies. It's just a tiny bit different because I only have one leaf there, and I fussy cut the leaf out, and I added that onto a sea glass background just because I wanted to try something different. Let me know in the comments below which card you like best. I personally prefer one with a bunch of leaves. So that's it from me for today. I hope I've inspired you. I hope you're going to rush to your craft room, grab the stamp set or a similar stamp set, whichever set you have in your stash, and give this coloring idea a try. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.